Hey, how's it going? My name is Matthew, aka EZBOT, and we're back with another live stream. Today we're going to talk about the SHIK, or SHIK, I never know if I'm saying it right, MIDI controller, which is fantastic, and I've been using for a really long time, and I've recently released a profile for it that you can download off of patreon.com/EZBOT to expand upon the Octatrack Performance Mixer templates that I use at all of my shows. And I want to show that off, but also I just want to talk about this controller in general and why using a controller with some of your hardware can really expand it, and why a specific type of controller like the SHIK or SHIK controller is so useful, because it has some really interesting actions that it can do. So I'm going to dive back into this perspective right here and just kind of show it to you. Make sure this is all nice and in focus. This is it right here. This is the SHIK MIDI controller. It's a great controller, and what I've done with it is I've expanded upon my performance templates. So the way I use the Octatrack is I like to use it as a performance mixer, because it has two stereo inputs. I create these dual buses where I have a bunch of serial effects. Inside this dual bus, each side is a percussion, a melody thing, right? I've talked about this a lot on this channel. What I don't have in most of my templates is the ability to like high pass or low pass just one side or the other, because the other effects have taken precedence over that. This controller takes care of that and gives me min-max controls and macro controls. This is really cool and really unique. So let me give you an example here. Push play. Right here, this is a high pass filter with resonance in it, and what's happening too is that we're starting with 0 resonance and 0 high pass filtering, but when I bring this up to its max value, you can hear that there is resonance in that filter. So what this has done is I set a max value of 40 resonance, and I can take the high pass filter all the way to almost silence, but it makes for a really nice sounding DJ filter. I did the same thing with the low pass filter. So you can hear it's not affecting the syntact, it's just affecting the digitact. Here's a high pass filter with delay. It's a macro control. So this is high passing and adding delay on just the left side. I have that same idea for the right side too. There's not really anything going on over here, but now you can hear that. Or say I want a sidechain pump. Sidechain pump's something that you can do in these performance templates that I make. You typically had to go to channel 5, LFO, and depth 1, but here we can just go like this. And now we have sidechain pumping. Very easily, you can always access it without looking at the part or going to the machine. So it's not crazy or unique that a MIDI controller can control a device. That's the whole purpose of the device. But what's great about this controller in particular is the price for it, which I found to be really a good like entry level for what it offers, as many controls as it does. 32 knobs with min, max, and macro control. So it's pretty incredible, and I'm going to go and show you more about how this interacts with the performance template, but I just want to talk a little bit further about this controller and kind of give you an example of why this is cool. In the SHIK controller, and I know that it said SHIK right in the thumbnail, that isn't the only controller that can do this. There are other controllers. I do own other controllers that have similar actions with less knobs at a higher price point, i.e. FaderFox EC4 is another controller that recently, not super recently, but pretty recently was updated with a firmware that allowed it to do macro controls as well. And it can do min-max, and it has endless encoders. That controller is not nearly twice the price as the SHIK controller. But it has a similar action, less encoders. So like there's always this trade-off. So I think that this is probably, in my opinion, like the best middle ground controller that you can get for what it offers in its control scheme. So I'm actually going to jump over to how you program this really quick and kind of just give you a little demonstration of how this is programmed and how you can program it yourself. 1 second here. And here it is. Now we're looking at the SHIK web editor. And this is pretty chill. It's really intuitive, it's really easy to use, and I can just sync this to my SHIK controller while it's connected to my piece of gear that I'm working on, and I can do this. So it'll sync over USB-C, and I can send a MIDI cable out to the device I'm using, and then see in real time, how the controller is working. And that's why this was so easy to do. So what I can do is I can hit this, and I can say sync from device, and there's a bunch of presets. So I've only made one preset so far. Works with most of my performance templates. I can just sync right from here, and bam, there it is. And in fact, if I was to upload it from an actual file, hang on a second. If I upload it from the actual file, you'll see the names of everything that I've done on here too, which I think is really nice. Let's see. SHIK 2.0 template. And I really like this because it's so much easier to understand what's going on. So here we go. Now you can actually see all the names of the controls. And let's click on one and take a look at how this is made. So here's a high pass filter for the A and B side on the Octatrack with resonance. So what I've chosen is a macro control change, meaning it can do more than one action with one control. And you select what channel you want. I'm using channel 2 because that's what channel the filter is on. And CC34 because that is the high pass filter CC. And I can do a min-max if I want. I do want to give it a max, or I want it to go to its max value. And if I want, I can also invert it so that the knob would go the other direction, useful for like a low-pass filter, as you can see. And on macro B, this is the resonance control for the filter, which I've set to max out at 40 so that we don't get a crazy amount of resonance when we high-pass filter. And this is it. This is how this controller works. It's that easy. You can save your JSON file by hitting this button, saving it to your computer, sync it, and then what's really cool, and I love this, is so useful and very smart of the developer, is you hit this button, and it takes you to a PDF where you can save it and print it off if you want. I'm sure you could cut it out and take the knobs off and, I don't know, turn it into a sticker or a magnet or something. But just having this alone, this graphic, was so useful for me because I'm sharing these templates that I make on Patreon and on Ko-fi.com. And so this made this really useful for me. So if you're somebody who wants to share your templates that you've done with a MIDI controller, this is a MIDI controller that lets you do that in a very efficient and an attractive way, if I might say. And really, that's all there is to it. It's a very simple concept. Here's the sidechain pump. Here's a sidechain with reverb. It's a macro control. So I'm taking advantage of a lot of macro controls and then some effects parameters here. And that's really it. Pretty cool. So I love it. And I feel like this really opened up techno production for me. So I have this kind of this house, deep house kind of track that I'm playing right now. And when I use like a high pass filter here on the Octatrack, this is a high pass filter that affects all the instrumentation coming into the Octatrack. I can high pass just my drum section. And now I can add like a reverb to everything. Play with the reverb time. Reload my part and snap back to where everything was. Of course, these knobs are all they're absolute. So you have to keep that in mind when you're using a controller like this. We're not sending relative messages, we are sending absolute messages, and they will snap. And There's only one way around this, and that is to have your Octatrack, is to have MIDI in and out coming from your device. It doesn't have to be the Octatrack. Whatever device sending, I believe, CC64, which is a message that tells a MIDI controller to update its values so that they're like basically one unit. And this is something you can do with the MIDI side on the Octatrack. You could have a constant CC64 message going out, and I'm considered adding that to like the performance template stuff that I do. But I haven't put that into effect yet. So I'm going to pull up that little map again really quick, because I want to show this off and how cool it is to use this in conjunction with the like performance effects. So if I go to like a drum and bass going. Or I could like high pass and freeze. So I'm using a freeze delay and a high pass filter or a low pass. Side chin pump. Yeah, so I think it just adds a lot, especially if you were going to do some techno production. So if we go back over to this like housey track, this closer to that vibe. There's that break on just the drums. I really like the high pass filter on just the drum side. It's probably one of the most useful parts. Yeah, so you can see these controls and some of the other controls that I added to expand like my performance templates on the Octatrack. The way that I designed it was all the controls you would want to use like effortlessly, they're on the surrounding edges. So this stuff is just going to be the stuff that you're going to reach for. Keeps things really simple. Just a delay mix, a reverb mix, delay mix, and then the effects mix for each part. So the way I designed the templates is every single one of the parts, there's 4 parts with 16 effects in each part, and each part uses an auxiliary effect to kind of make the part stand out. Not just the LFOs, not just the selection for how the scenes are functioning or the values that I've put in the scene, but also the effect that's actually in the scene. For instance, on part 1, we have a phaser over here. So when I'm playing, I can turn up the phaser. And it's phasing my drum side. And on this part, we have a chorus, so I can chorus my synthesizers. So I think that's awesome. Hold function and hit Q, and it brings you back to the default settings of whatever you've set up in your Octatrack. So when you want more delicate control and not such wild effects that some of the effects are in the template, so some of the effects are just like, they're these like huge buildups for transitioning. I mean, we have a high pass, low pass filter and like an acid filter here, but you don't always want such large effects. So having this controller alongside it will give you more gentle effects that maybe you would use, at different times in your music or for different genres or different styles of your music. Maybe you're playing a more techno-based performance and you just want access to a high pass and a high pass with delay, and you want to be able to high pass that drum side specifically and that melodic side specifically, but still have access to all of these other effects for your other productions that you're working on. Maybe you're not just doing techno. That's where a controller like this is going to be really useful. It really does break open your boxes. Controls, like, it makes them much more refined, and more surgical, I guess is the way I really want to put it. It's a much more surgical perspective on things, and I really like it. What has to happen though when you're using a controller like this is it has to be easy to program, and that's what I wanted to show off, how easy it was to program this controller. If it's not easy to program, you're not going to use it, straight up. I mean, I think most people feel that way. I mean, there's always the exception of the artist who just doesn't care how hard it is to program. They're gonna grind through it. But I think the average musician or a person who's making music in their home studio, like, if something starts getting too complicated, they tend to give up and just look for something that's easier. This is really easy to use, so I really like it. There's no affiliate anything going on here. I don't get any money or anything if you buy this controller. I just want to point out that macro controls and min-max controls are available in this particular controller, and it has a metal chassis and it's easy to program, and that's sick. So if someone else makes one that's as awesome as that at the same price point, I might be interested in that too. But right now, this to me is kind of the king of affordable, powerful MIDI controllers. And I made a template for it, which you can grab on patreon.com. While we're talking about all this, let's take a little break for a second and talk about upcoming shows really quick while, there's some people hanging out here. We'll skip this ad that's about to come through, because there are some shows coming up. If you're in Seattle and you love live hardware electronic music, you should come out to these shows. There's a show tonight at the 4Bs, which is the Modbang live hardware electronic music event with Production Unit Zero, DJ Weak Acid, Glass Places, and Brother First Robot. 2 people from Seattle, 2 people from Portland coming up. And then next Friday, we have Leo Season with Sad Boys, Dean Crystal, Hair Shield, and I will be playing. I'll be opening that show up for those guys. And that should be a really good time. So come on down and check out these live shows. Let's get back over to this. So, how's everybody doing? It's always good to hang out. Live stream, Tuesday live stream, Modbang Day. I've been playing a ton of shows, absolutely a ton of shows, and I was kind of inspired to make this SHIK template for my performance mixer, performance templates. And this works with all the performance templates that I've come out with recently in the last year. So if you already have one and you have a SHIK controller or you're looking for a MIDI controller, you can download the template off of the Patreon and put it on there, and it'll just work. It's a piece of cake. In regards to shows, played a bunch of shows. So I played in Portland. I played a show that at Holocene. That was really cool, and I have some footage of that. I'll share some of that on the channel at some point. That was a great sounding venue, good show. And then I played another show on Friday. It's like a chiptune show, and I played some, not just chiptunes and dance music, all people playing guitars too. It was really, really cool. That was a very particularly special event. Like there was just the scene that was there. I don't think I'd had people so young at my shows ever, because most of the time, you know, it's like a lot of live hardware folks are like in their late 30s and forward from there. And there was definitely people in their like early 20s at the show. I was like, oh, this is really cool to actually get some younger ears on my tunes, and just to see those people at a show is great. So that was a really fun experience, and been playing with this setup here. This has been my setup. Let me remove the little SHIK image. So this has become a regular part of my shows now, playing shows with the M8 tracker. I actually am gonna test out an idea with the SHIK because it has min-max. I was thinking about setting it up so that this would be low pass, like, because you can just change presets by hitting this button on here. You can see it jumps through presets. So in preset 1, I'm controlling the Octatrack Performance Mixer, but I'm going to set it up so that in preset 2, maybe it controls some of the Performance Mixer, but also controls the M8. Even though I don't necessarily need that, because I can just, you know, we could have the M8 play. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I already have my DJ filter here. That's pretty nice to have, right? So any controller that or any device that I plug into here now has this, right? And now has that like individual high pass, low pass filter, high pass with delay. I also bought a new piece of hardware for my desk. Let's see if I could pull it over here without like just ruining everything. Yeah, that's kind of hard for me to like, let me switch the camera perspective. Here we go, the Key Largo by Radial. I picked one of these suckers up. And it is a robust beast. This is a beast. So it's a keyboard mixer, like meant to go on the ground even. That's why it's such a strong build, and it has those two foot switches. One of them's like a sustain switch, and the other one is the sound effects switch. You can turn on the sound effects. So it has 3 stereo inputs, a USB input. It acts as an audio interface too. Has a built-in DI and a built-in ground loop isolation for the monitor and the main outs. And it works. The ground loop isolation works. Like, you just flip it and bam, it works. And that's so useful for devices like the Mate, because when you're, or anything that you're plugging USB in that's also doing audio for you, it usually creates a ground loop of some sort. USB power is just dirty power. I don't know how else to put it. That Radial really helps with that. It is way expensive though. I hesitated on purchasing it for, I mean, I actually have had this in my cart to buy the Radial Key Largo for, I don't know, probably like a year, or it's been in and out of my cart, I should say. And then I was just like, you know, just buy it. Just buy it. It's gonna do you some favors soon, and it already has. So now what I have plugged into it is I have the Mate plugged into it, which deals with the ground loop problem that it has sometimes. Instead of using the little tiny Xiacom ground loop isolator, I now use that as my ground loop isolator. I have my Eurorack system over here. It's plugged into it. And I have my guitar, the end of the mood is a stereo output. It's plugged into it. And all of that is running into my Digitac 2, which is a lovely 4824 stereo sampler. So now I can just gather all these sounds very easily without a large footprint, because it's so small. It's so small, and it just fits in the corner off the side of the desk. It's not taking up any space for me, which I really like. That's something I really gravitate towards, is stuff that takes up like no space. So yeah, these are the kind of updates that's going on. Dirty, yeah, very dirty power. That's what it feels like. What's up, Jordo? Rustic, how's it going? Link to Discord? You're not in the Discord, Rustic? I thought for sure you were in the Discord. I'll shoot you a link. Yeah, anybody who wants to join. There you go. There's a link for everybody. Everyone is welcome. Come on into the Discord. We have 33 or 3,400 members in there at the moment. But yeah, come on in. Come hang out. Talk about talk gear with us. So back over here, I want to keep talking about this controller just a little bit more before we move on to just jamming and talking about tunes. And I want to talk about my experience playing these shows recently, and I'm playing the last show of the month in that Leo season when I showed you, the poster I showed you, which is the Friday at Bad Bar here in Seattle. And, you know, I'm feeling very ready to play shows right now. And after playing so many shows in a row, I've been playing a lot of shows lately, and I'm going to take a break, to be honest. I'm going to take a little break from playing shows and kind of just regroup and analyze what I've been doing, the kind of music I'm making, how I perform, and all of that. I just want to, you know, take a step back and listen for a minute and see what's going on. But something I realized, and this is something I've been like kind of sharing with people, is the sets that I move through my music faster are better. The sets that I move through my tunes like I'm in a rush turn out better than the ones where I'm taking my time. And which kind of made me feel like I was like, maybe I'm not writing enough music, if that means like maybe I'm not writing enough patterns, or I am not sitting on I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is, but I have noticed that I like the way my sets sound better when they seem a little bit rushed. And I think that maybe has to do with how much melody that I put into my music, because you can't really sit on a pattern for very long if you have the same melody line going. I guess another example, and we can also use the SHIK controller at the same time while we do this, is in this track right here. We switch from a couple different melodic elements. We have this vocal thing, which when I take out is pretty substantial. We can switch these drums out. I feel like this is kind of an odd example that I've talked about that and then use this song as the example, because this song is one I felt like I could sit on the longest with just a couple of patterns. And it really makes you think about what kind of music you're making, you know, for how many patterns that you use and how many melodic elements, and remembering to turn off some of your melodies. I feel like I see some people perform, and I know we all get nervous when we're playing. We get a little bit overwhelmed, we get busy. And it's hard to remember this, and some people take notes, and I think it's really useful to take notes to a show. Is like, when you're gonna have a strong melodic element, even if you're gonna be sitting in the same pattern, it would be good to remove the other strong melodic element. Got this little melody here, and this right here. Now I can take them out and replace it with this, and I'm still sitting on the same pattern. But with songs like this, that's like a 2.5 minute song. I have to blast through that song. It's got too much going on. You know what I mean? Like, I can't sit on anything. And there's not that much improv that I can do. But I don't know exactly where I was going with that. I was just letting you know, this is the feedback I'm giving myself that I've noticed when I was playing live. I liked it better when I was moving through my sets quicker, and maybe other people relate to that too. Thanks for subscribing, Crack Lips. Do you use these headphones in your live sets? I do not. No, I use I used some Shure in-ear monitors. I had some like of those custom in-ear monitors made for myself, but they broke and they were so expensive. I was like, I'm not ever doing that again. So I picked up some Shure in-ear monitors for like 180 bucks, and they've worked just as well. Not quite as good, but pretty good enough, and they sound fine. It's a great technique, keeps the crowd guessing. It's a fun way to play. Yeah, I think so too. These headphones are the Shure 1540s. These are mastering headphones with extended low end. People are often asking me about these headphones. And I love to tell people about them because I think they're awesome. They're about 500 bucks, which I think is a good investment, in my opinion, because you can master with them. That's not easy, you can master your music late at night when everyone else in your house is asleep. You can have these on, keep going, never stop working. That's my motto. This controller is called the SHIK. The SHIK. I never know if I'm saying it right. I always forget. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, let's talk about the SHIK again. I put these auxiliary effects here. Right now, this one's controlling the distortion or the amplitude modulation. Sample rate reduction. Bit rate. Always amplifies the volume. Distortion. Always amplifies volume. So what I did is I made these kind of they're like two guns going like this. The shape that's here. And this is the mix of most of the effects, because most of the effects on the Octatrack have a main mix knob that, you can kind of just leave the settings the way you want them and then just use the mix control for the most part. But I also broke out all the other controls. So it goes mix on the edge, and then it goes parameter 1, parameter 2, parameter 3, parameter 4, parameter 5, which is a little bit different than the way things are laid out on the Octatrack, but I don't think it matters. I think you're mostly just going to use this mix knob, and when you're very particular about what you're doing, you might reach in for another control. Otherwise, everything is really simple. Just stick to the edges, and you wouldn't even need the map to see what's going on, to know what's going on, because it's a mirror of itself. Delay. That part. What are the advantages that you would have? Because I really like to be just as real and honest as I absolutely possibly can be on this channel. Just in general in life, I always feel like that is just the way to go. If you don't know what to do, just tell the truth. And it usually gets you out of whatever situation you're in. Whether it means you're going to have to face the consequences of the truth or not, it's usually just the best method. So I do want to mention that if you had a controller, this is one of the trades of having a different controller than this one, even though I really like this one. If you had a controller like the EC4, like I said, has less controls and it's more expensive, one of the advantages it does offer when you're doing stuff like what I'm doing is that it's a rotary control. And you can push down on that control button on the EC4 and it will reset the value back to 0 on the controller. And that's really nice because instead of going like this, you can just go and hit it and it will just fly back to its original value, right? Because it's not these fixed knobs. You still will want to go function Q and reload your parts no matter what. But that is one of the advantages of a little bit more of an expensive controller. And I do think that the developer who made this one is working on something new. I haven't seen it, or I don't have any details about it, but I believe they're working on something that it's supposed to be, a significant upgrade. I'm sure it will cost a lot more, I imagine, but probably worth it because it's been pretty useful. This one's been pretty useful so far. What I want to do is create another mapping that maps it to the mate and have like one side be like DJ controls and this side be like mixer controls, like track 1 volume, track 2 volume, track, so on and so forth. And then maybe filters here for those individual tracks, like maybe just high pass filters for all the tracks. And then DJ controls over here, where we're doing like the DJ master filter, remix control. I don't know if the remix control has a CC value, but I think it would be really cool to add some controls to the mate with a MIDI controller. This would also be a really great controller to pair with the Digitact or the Syntact. I think it would pair really well with the Syntact because you could do some really great stuff with the dual VCO because you have the macro controls. So you could have one knob that changes the config and also adjusts the balance at the same time. And just imagine the kind of improv techno stuff you could do with that. Just moving one knob and it just completely morphing the signal as if you had two hands. You could have one going one direction and one going the other direction. You know what I mean? Like you could have a bunch of different controls for different synth engines that are doing two different values with inversions and min-max. And that with the sound design device like the Syntact is huge. So another cool thing that you could do with a controller like this, and it's also just so easy to program, to do stuff like that and to take advantage of like having multiple scenes on a controller like this, because a lot of controllers have multiple scenes that they offer, you're gonna want to get yourself a MIDI merger. Not necessarily like a quad. You could use a quadra through. There's multiple options here. You could do like a MIDI merger and then have it go through a through box through the through channel on all of your machines. Or you can get like a quadra through and then have a quadra through, plug it into the quadra through, take those 4 through outputs and route them into other boxes. But you're still going to need some sort of merger so that they can get more than one signal. That's where something like an MRCC comes into effect. That, or like the smaller version, the MRC80 or something. I think that's what it's called. Something like that would be really useful to have in conjunction with a controller like this so that you could control all of your devices. You just press a button to switch over to a different device, which I think is dope. SHIK is your favorite DT2 controller. Is it? Nice. That's cool. I thought you were a MIDI fighter twister freak. Kind of assumed. I've been doing so much. So I played a show with Trash 80, and it was quite influential. And I played a show with Basic, and it was also quite influential. And hearing these much more seasoned like live hardware artists than me. I mean, they are. It's just the truth. They've been doing it longer than me, and they're amazing. They really are just like next level type stuff. A bunch of the people I played with were just next level artists. It happens all the time. I play with people. I'm just like, damn, you're so good. You're so good at songwriting. You're so good at working all this hardware. Always humbled, constantly being humbled. Can be hard on you being humbled all the time. But so this thing I was playing with Basic that was so interesting about watching Basic, how Basic plays, is Basic's doing a lot of like actual finger drumming stuff. It's really cool. 2 rhythms, DJ controller, and then he's mixing between the 2 rhythms with the DJ controller. And it's just like, it's beyond my scope of like something I'll ever be able to do. The stuff that I was seeing Basic do. I was like, this is out of control. Super cool. Taking it to the next level for sure. I think would really enjoy, using like a bunch of extra performance effects, but at the same time, I don't think it really shines with the kind of tunes you'd be playing with anyway. This is better for like drum and bass, or not drum and bass, I'm sorry, for like techno stuff and big transitions, big epic transitions. But it was really cool seeing what he was doing. And then playing with Trash 80, the compositions that he was making, and all using an M8. I mean, he composed it on his computer, I believe, and then kind of transferred it over to the M8, some of it. But it just sounds so good just coming out of the M8. And this is a 4416 device, like Digitact 1 or Octatrack. And it sounded amazing. And man, it's just completely different styles of music. These artists I've been playing with, everybody was at all these different styles, and it made me think. I was like, okay, for one, somebody like Basic focuses on that style of music. He makes like this thrasher, hardcore, drum and bass, screaming metal with hardware boxes and a DJ mixer. It's like a whole nother world. And then you have somebody like Trash 80 and a bunch of the other artists that I played with recently. I had this just amazing compositions. They were all so unique and so different from each other. But I feel like people focus on their niche. It's not necessarily that they're focusing on a genre, they're focusing on a technique or a sound that inspires them so much. And I like so many different sounds. I'm always trying to learn different genres or different techniques and different ways of programming. And sometimes I think it kind of like, sometimes I think it's a roadblock, even though it's so much learning. But at some point, I feel like you need to be a little more laser focused so that you can make the best thing you can possibly make. Because it is really hard, like jumping all over the place. I'll hear a new artist and I'll get so inspired by them and I'll be like, I want to make music like that too. Like I want to make sounds like that. And I'll like conceptually, I'll know how to do it and I'll start working on that process. But it never turns out as good as what you were listening to, because that's what they've been doing for years and you're just now trying it. So of course, that artist will have the upper hand in that situation. And I'm like, what is it that I want to focus on? What is it that I am good at? And I'm a very melodic soul. I like writing a lot of melodic stuff, but I don't know like which one is the one for me. And not that there should be one. This just kept coming up for me because these artists that were so good, they've been doing this particular style for so long. And that's how you get good at stuff, is practice, 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 right? So I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of comments on that or a lot of thoughts on that, whether they're sharing them with me or not in the chat. But this is just the unabridged EZBOT thoughts on music production. One thing I have been really enjoying is I have really been enjoying playing with the Mate, and I'm still trying to find a way to integrate more control over the musical side of it. So like what I've been doing is running, well, right now it's plugged into the SHIK because the SHIK is using my MIDI cable, but I'd send the MIDI output from the M8 into the MIDI in on the Octatrack, and I have the Octatrack's MIDI settings set up right now to receive clock and send clock, but not receive program change. So if I plug something into the Octatrack that's sending MIDI, it overtakes the MIDI for the Octatrack. And because these boxes are slaved to the Octatrack, everything gets slaved to this device at the moment when I plug in the MIDI. And I like that. It works. There is a little delay between switching MIDI clocks. When I unplug the MIDI, the Octatrack still thinks it's at the MIDI tempo from this before, and it's like a short delay. It's like maybe a couple seconds. And then it realizes it has its own MIDI clock and retakes the MIDI clock. So what I was doing at the shows is starting out my tracks in a different project than this one, but starting out my tracks on an empty pattern in my Octatrack and just having it plugged into my Digitact. And so nothing's playing on that pattern, and I just go through songs on the Mate, and I send clock to the Octatrack so that I can get clocked performance effects in the Octatrack. I'm mostly just sitting in the same part. And I keep talking about how I'm building this drum and bass performance template for the Octatrack that's mostly like different filters, delays, and beat repeats, and I am building it. And most of it's going to be based on what the party section is in this performance template right now. So it'll be kind of like I'm going to duplicate out the party template across all 4 sections and then just make tons of variations of stuff. And what's fun with that, when you're sending MIDI from the Mate or any other device into the Octatrack, especially for drum and bass with like these filters and beat repeats like built into scenes, is that you can just go, full bore on your crossfader and just jump through different scenes and they sound good. It actually sounds like you're just writing glitchy music. Like it sounds cool. And I really love that live. So as I'm playing this, playing these tracks, I'm able to kind of like remix them in a way, even though I'm not really controlling anything in the Mate itself. That's also where this comes into play, is that's why I want to make a second scene for this. So go up to scene 2 when I'm doing M8 stuff, and then just hit scene 1 when I'm going back to performing on the Electron stuff. So I am going to create some sort of template that'll control this, but with the mate, and it's so easy to set up too, but with the mate you can so quickly, you just hold Option and turn a knob that's connected to a MIDI controller that's connected to the mate, and it will just auto map to that knob. And so it's really easy to set up MIDI controls. So you could technically kind of just do it on the fly, just plug the controller right into it and be like, all right, like, you know, for this song, or you could set it up on a song basis where you could be like, you know, I'm in these 16, or like you could have each one of these be a different song. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Like this be song 2, this be song 3 on the mate, and then write out different templates and print that PDF like the SHIK website offers. So I think there's some really cool stuff to be said about that, and to be taken advantage of. And I want to do that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm playing one last show this Friday before I take a break from playing shows for a little while and work on Octatrack stuff and just work on music production. But I think I'm going to make a template, 2 templates, one for each song on the mate. And it will control both the mate and the Octatrack. So I'll have maybe this side be the actual synthesizers in the mate, so I can open up the filter on 303s that are in the mate, or on just, you know, synths in the mate. And then this side could control the effects for the performance template. I think that's a pretty good idea. And I don't think this is like, the footprint's not too big to bring to shows. And I put some little plastic feet on it that are really, really sticky, so it doesn't move at all. In fact, if I try and push it forward, it'll just shake my whole desk. What's up, Ponchi? Yeah, so that's kind of where my head's at. I'm just trying to expand upon my live production setup, like how I can get the most out of my tunes and kind of like what I want to do. I did get, I think I mentioned this in the last stream, I'm considering playing with this as well at the next show. It's got my dog's hairs all over it because my dog is white and sheds constantly. And I did get the 1U FX8 that someone told me about. And I think that this little rig is awesome. And I wonder if there's CC messages for this. I wonder if anyone knows. Is there CC messages for the Labyrinth? Probably not. Probably not. Maybe some messages that do the bit flipping and stuff like that. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, the M8 does do MIDI learn, Charles. Octatrack and the M8 both have MIDI learn. Anything with MIDI learn is going to be really nice with MIDI controller because it's just so quick. So quick to program your controller. Again, you want to send, I believe, CC64 out if you want to do relative controls, and you have to set your controller in relative mode. I don't think the SHIK controller does relative mode, but the FaderFox EC4 does, if that's something that's already in your repertoire. Sad the oh. Well, that's not fair. You just got a Dreadbox Typhon, and it's super tiny analog synth, so you want to sequence that with either my D2 or Octa. Nice. I would sequence that with your Digitac 2. The advantage of sequencing anything with your Octatrack, like the main advantage of sequencing like MIDI stuff with your Octatrack, is that the Octatrack has a really dope arpeggiator. Otherwise, sequencing stuff with your Octatrack, if anything, is more confusing because you have to go into the MIDI side. You know, if you have a DT2, although it has dedicated MIDI tracks, you're not like losing anything. I just find that sequencing from here, everything from here, is just so much faster to set up. Plus it has better LFOs, so if you're going to use the LFOs, the MIDI LFOs on the Digitact are better LFOs than the Octatrack's LFOs, except for you have LFO Designer on the Octatrack. But you can do an LFO on a per step basis. So that's really cool. It really breaks open your synthesizer much further. So that's why I would choose this. I would always have chosen Digitech 1 because I had the dedicated 8 controls, and we didn't need that many. Eight channels for sequencing external gear was a lot. It's like way overkill for most people. But now we have 16 channels of audio, and I don't actually really like giving up my audio tracks anymore. So now I am considering sequencing from other boxes. I'm giving up like one audio track, but I ended up liking using so many audio tracks. I just kind of switched them out to make one pattern last a lot longer. Would this work well for VCV rack? Yeah, absolutely. It would be a breeze with VCV rack. VCV rack. What's so great about I remember I was working at the Eurorack. It was like mostly selling Eurorack, working at the synth shop in Seattle, and you know, bread and butter there was boutique synthesizers, so like Eurorack stuff mostly. And VCV rack came out. Man, that was such a huge deal for us because that opened up Eurorack to everybody, you know. And most of us at the synth shop, we didn't even use VCV rack because we already had, you know, we had all the modular synthesizers, and it was all mostly replicas of stuff that was in the shop. But people would come in and they were like, "Hey, I tried VCV rack, now I want the real deal." And man, that was awesome for us. That was so good. So grateful to the developer of VCV rack, and it is a really cool thing. And now there's the meta module, which I saw years ago at NAMM. That's been in development for a really long time, that meta module. And I'd consider picking it up. I could actually rebuild some of the stuff that I do in the Octatrack Performance template in the meta module. And I considered that. I was like, oh, I can build a lot of these effects and pair it with a MIDI controller, and that could be cool. Throw it in a palette case and have a custom thing. Be a lot of work, but it could be worth it. I don't know. I'd have to buy the meta module. The thing is that if I don't use it to do that, I'm not going to use it to do anything because I don't really use my Eurorack all that much except for the Labyrinth, which I love deeply. A controller with knobs instead of encoders is a bad deal? I don't know about that. I mean, my first experience with the MIDI controller was with knobs. That really awesome Surgeon video, he's using a PC-12. It's just knobs to control things. On the Octatrack, you can do this thing where you just reload parts, and so it kind of takes away the disadvantages of the knobs. I don't know. It saves you a lot of money. Encoders are extremely expensive. It makes a MIDI controller a lot of money. Danny Toba. Really depends on the use case. Sometimes you want to have visual feedback or haptic feedback where the knobs are standing and not working when you change banks. Exactly. Yeah. If you aren't doing paging or context switching for the MIDI controller, encoders can be totally fine. Sorry, not encoders, potentiometers. Yeah, these are great points. And you'll pay for all of these features. Like, you'll pay a lot more money to get stuff like that. It's affordable to have these controls. It saves you a lot of money, and it's doing the trick. So the new template that I'm working on, so someone mentioned, or Ponchi mentioned, really love the freeze delay scenes with some filtering on them. They're a lot of fun. They are the most, in my opinion, they're the most fun. So like by default, you know, you can just freeze. We can freeze scenes. Like that's already a part of the Octatrack if you use the freeze delays. I have independent freeze delays, so you can freeze the melody and freeze the drums independently. But when you make scenes, you can have the scenes freeze them at different intervals. Or have an LFO go. So I could have one scene freeze the melody at a triplet, like a triplet 8th note, and the other side freeze the drums at a 16th note or 32nd note straight. And it sounds awesome, like this. I think it's dope. It's like literally another thing for me to learn, right? Like getting used to playing with more controls. But I could see myself reaching for this pretty often and then reaching for this. Like it's still this, you know, it's still my Octatrack Performance Mixer stuff that I designed for my live shows. I just have more controls now. Which I love. So I could really see myself probably reaching for this maybe more often than I reach for some of these other effects so that I can be a little bit more subtle. Like I'll go back to this chill track, but like getting a low pass filter. I like never use low pass filters anymore because I'm so used to playing with these like bigger effects, but it's great for bringing in hats. Or have the low pass all. And what I was saying before about these freeze delays is if you use this and the freeze delays, I mean, this is definitely like room for improvement here. There, in terms of like what I can do and my thought process with more controls. I need to figure out when to do what I'm doing. that's a part of the game here. You know what? I really love the idea of like, because I kind of consider like the Octatrack as an instrument, but it's an instrument that lets you like create anything you want, right? It's very powerful. That's why I love it so much. You know, that's why I have two of them. And when I make like these performance templates for the Octatrack, I'm just like reimagining the Octatrack, right? I'm taking advantage of all the features that it offers, and adding something like this is that along those same lines. But it creates a new instrument, right? It's like its own instrument. These concepts of like mixing the drums on one side, the melody on another, and then the effects that are there. And just because someone makes a new kind of instrument doesn't mean that they're the best person at the instrument. The guy who created the guitar was probably not as good at guitar as Tim Henson from Polyphia. And I love that idea. There's something beautiful about that we can create something and someone else could use it and they could be the best at it. You know, not necessarily the developer, right? Trash 80 is probably not the best programmer on the Mate because there are other people that are just somehow gifted at programming. You know, Schenk isn't the creator of Electron boxes, but he's one of the best programmers on Electron. He's not the creator. You know, and I love that idea. I think that's so cool. And it's so inspiring, and it gives your work so much more purpose, because when things are just for you, they're just not as cool. Things just for you are not great. I love the idea of sharing my work, and that's why I like YouTube. That's why I like streaming, and that's why I like bringing on other pieces of gear and sharing it with people. I was having a conversation, or like kind of like more like spying on a conversation. Not spying, but I was just not participating in it much and doing a lot of reading. And the conversation was between a couple of other popular YouTubers and talking about, you know, how to deal with bringing gear, like how to deal with making money being a YouTuber and doing, you know, gear reviews and stuff. And the only 2 cents that I really had was that I just don't show anything off that I don't actually use. And that's been the conversation that I have with people that reach out to me, because, you know, I do this every week, once, if not twice a week, and companies reach out and they're like, hey, you know, people are hanging out on your stream. Can you show this thing off? We'll give it to you for free. And that happens. But the conversation that either I don't respond or we have a short conversation and I basically say, I was like, you can send it to me. I can make no promises that I'm going to show it off. And honestly, if I might show it off for the very first time live so that people can actually get my real reaction to it. So I'm not like selling something to you, but I don't mind selling something to people if it's dope. You know what I mean? Like if something is awesome and I can show you how awesome it is, I'm all for it. Like I'm here to help people get their hands on awesome stuff. I think that's great. You know, I'll tell people to buy M8s all day. I love this thing. I'll tell people to buy this controller. It's awesome. It's affordable. It does min, max, and macro controls. Like, to me, that's a big deal. That's like why the Octatrack is great, because the Octatrack doesn't do min, max. It does do min, max. I'm sorry. It doesn't do min, but it does max, and it does macro. A lot more macro than this controller can do. This does 2 macros. This can do a lot. I don't even know the number. I think it's 16. I know you can lock in 16 values on the step sequencer. That's the max macro step lock. At least it was. And so I love that idea too. I love, like, if I'm going to share something and be passionate about something, like if I show something off on this channel, I'm personally endorsing it, like straight up. And I have to take that fallout too. Like if it sucks and people are like, yo, that sucked, and you endorsed it, then that's on me, you know? And I'm okay with that. So that's why I don't endorse very much stuff. I play with what I play with, you know? I've shown this off for years. Honestly, this is like year 2 of me making templates for the SHIK controller. I keep showing the same stuff because it's the one that works, and I know that other people can use it, and it expands the use case of the performance mixer templates that I make. And to me, I want my ecosystem to grow and work with itself, you know, and I back that. So that's just me talking, you know, just talking about YouTube and having an opinion and putting your opinion out there. It's just, it's scary, you know, or being vulnerable sucks on the internet. That's for sure. And you have enough people like saying stuff negative, like it starts to take an effect. If it doesn't take effect the first time, like it definitely starts to take effect. I think I was just cruising on Reddit or Twitter, or I don't know what social media platform I was looking at. Too much of that shit in my life, but it was just like a picture of Ben Affleck, and it was Ben Affleck just looking down in every photo, and he just looks like so beat. He's always smoking a cigarette, which I'm quite jealous of because I quit smoking like 10 years ago, and I still want a cigarette. Can you believe that? I still want a cigarette after 10 years. But he's just looking so bummed all the time. And I was just thinking, like, to be that famous, you must get just bombed with hate all the time. Like, people hated his Batman. I liked his Batman. People hated his Batman, you know? And then there has his relationship is public. People hate his relationship. Or Jennifer Lopez hates him, or who knows, whatever. And just that idea, it's similar to backing, like when you talk about stuff on YouTube, like airing your thoughts, people will shit on you for that, you know? I hate that. But it is what it is. But this all to say that I totally back this controller. I think it's great. Although I was finding some problems with the inversion control. Wasn't mapping correctly or something. So that's why the low pass filter starts left and goes right instead of being right and going left. Because on the Octatrack, your low pass filter would be starts at 127. So you'd actually go like this. So you can see my min max working here. See how it slowly brings up the resonance? I love that. This is why I like this controller. It's quickly bringing down the width and slowly bringing up the resonance. Yeah. Pretty cool. And I'm going to be doing a... Wait, that should be bringing it to 0. Why does that flip like that? There's some weird stuff going on right there. It shouldn't do anything having the resonance there with the filter cutoff all the way open and the bass all the way down. So it shouldn't really be an issue technically, but I'm not quite sure why it's wrapping around like that. Let's look over here. That's working right. And it's doing the same. $14. What's that? 0. Why would that be 0? That should be 20. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe my inversion is wrong. Let's take a look. Let's take a look together, shall we? This low pass, the high pass, the low pass should go all the way to 127. Oh, the macro is inverted. This part shouldn't be inverted. The resonance was inverted, and it should be linear and not inverted. And same here. Okay. All right, so I found a little bug, and I'm going to fix it. So now I just download this, and it goes into my SHIK template 2.0, and I replace it. I know you probably can't see me doing that. And now I'm going to sync it to the controller. And bam, there we go. Now let's go back over to the actual controller itself, and let's see if that worked. So this should be the low pass. Wait a second. Oh, I looked at the wrong side. It's over here. This should be the low pass. There we go. There we go. It works. Okay, fixed it. I was like, there was something wrong there. Don't worry, my friends on my patrons and whatever folks that might want to snag this. I will upload this new version after the stream so that it doesn't do that. But there we go. Now it works. That's how we wanted. That's really cool, right? You don't want to have too much resonance on your low pass filter because it makes it really boomy on your like kicks and stuff. Sounds bad. So that's why I have the resonance just a small amount to just kind of like cut through. I kind of wish it would just like jump to a resonance point, like just immediately go to resonance 20 and stay on resonance 20 all the way through. So it just has this like comb that just is like moving through the spectrum, but that's not the case. You're supposed to go on social media and SHIK on the company. The crazy wabbit. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Hashtag Team Pots. Yeah, let's go. Let's go Team Pots. All right, let's switch off. We've been talking about the SHIK and life and stuff because we're a very transparent YouTube channel. We talk about everything. I'm going to switch it over to here and give you an idea of what I've been doing with the mate. So we're going to have this. Yeah, it's already doing MIDI in. We'll go to Egg 1 pattern. Switch these projects. When I'm playing shows and I switch projects, I'll use either beat repeat, or you can capture a live loop and then crossfade over if you know the BPM of the next track you plan to go to. That is the most effective and the most beautiful way to do it. The template that I have currently loaded in my Octatrack doesn't use the looper for that. It uses it to remix a track. Then I ended up not using it that much to remix tracks live because I was just like too in my head at the time. There we go. So now this is controlling the Octatrack. Controlling all the machines, honestly. I can go over to part 4 and I was saying about how you can kind of just like go into wet and just hold on to effects. You can kind of like do like a little weird solo, so to speak, with like beat repeats and filters. Oh yeah, unplugged it. No wonder. So what I want to do is have this control this and this so that I can screw with these synthesizer effects. Actually, I want to load this other project because just something really cool that that happened is I was trying to make this bass patch, and I just want to show a little bit of this simple sound design that happened. It like has a very slap bass vibe to it. There, picking. Which I thought was really cool. Anyway, we're not going to do any music production today because I have a whole bunch of work to do. But I wanted to show off that I released this template for the SHIK, which is now available on patreon.com/EZBOT, and maybe we'll also, and you can get it from the Discord as well. And maybe I'll have it on Coffee or something. You can get it for $1 or something. I don't know. Because it requires you to have all this other stuff for it to be useful. But if you are a patron already, you can just get it. But besides that, make sure that you come to the shows tonight. These are the shows. This is the show tonight. Production Unit 0 from Portland is awesome. DJ Weak Acid. This is Nick from the Synth Shop here in Seattle. Glass Places. Another great artist, and Brother vs. Robot, who you may know from Instagram. Does a lot of great Instagram stuff. But also Portland artist. And then, of course, Leo Season, which will be a really fun event at Bad Bar this coming Friday at 7 o'clock. So thank you, everybody, for hanging out. And if you want to get yourself, if you already have a SHIK controller and you want to get this template so that you have more control over your Octatrack or these performance templates. So I was saying before, it works with all of the Octatrack Performance Mixer 3.0 templates. So that's the Remixer, Techno Performance Template, Ultimate Effects Template, Performance Mixer 3.0 template, the Remixer 3.0 template, and half of the controller works with the hybrid template. So if you just use the left half, you can play with the, the left half works with the hybrid template. This half does not. So don't use this half with the hybrid. But besides that, my name's Matthew, aka EZBOT. If you like this kind of content and want to support this channel, you can visit patreon.com/EZBOT and sign up for the Patreon. Otherwise, you can just leave a nice comment and a like on the stream, and that goes a long way. I'll see you at the show tonight. Peace.